Happy Halloween, everybody, and welcome to another kitchen sink microscopy. I am a bondage devil guy. I don't know. And we'd love it if you'd like and share and subscribe to the channel. We don't usually look like this. Well, I don't. Erik does usually, but he looks normal today.
Yeah, I'm completely normal, but happy Halloween nevertheless. It's early morning. Well, it's morning here and night there, so I haven't had time to prepare, but that's okay. Halloween's my favorite time of year, and maybe Casey and I, we write our own music, and perhaps at the end of this episode there might be a Halloweeny themed music piece that we'll throw in at the end. Some kind of song.
We've got tons of spooky stuff.
Yep. There's quite a bit out there. So there might be something at the end, so stick around for that. Well, what do you think, Casey? What should we do today?
Well, being almost Halloween, a couple of years ago, we did a rather awesome Halloween themed lightning round.
Lightning round. Yeah, that's perfect. Okay, we can do that. So I will put the timer in at 5 minutes. And so anybody that isn't, you've been living under a rock or something, you don't know what our lightning rounds are. Casey and I take our major categories and divvy them up and take turns providing each other with unexpected topic ideas. And then at the end, there's one that we both know that we talk about. So, yeah.
And we have a new segment we've been doing a couple months now. Lightning Strikes Twice comes out every Wednesday evening. We just do one topic each, and it's super fast.
Yep. Very, very good.
So if your lightning rounds weren't fast enough, now they're even faster.
Exactly.
It's a 5G lightning round.
5G. It's a Comcast 10G.
All right. Well, before my bondage gear falls off, I suppose we might as well jump right into it.
Yep. And I think I'm the first.
Yes.
And I have Tomfoolery.
Tomfoolery. I'm well dressed for tomfoolery.
Yes, indeed.
So I'm prepared. Bring me your best tomfoolery.
So here we go. Would you hook up with a zombie if he or she was hot?
Oh, geez.
Let's assume the zombie had already eaten and was now feeling a little rambunctious.
Yes. Okay. So the zombie is satiated and rambunctious. Are we assuming the vagina hasn't fallen off yet?
Yeah. Like, let's say everything's like mostly working.
Okay. So I think it might be plausible to, if you could imagine in a real world scenario, a zombie, they're not going to look like this putrefied flesh, like right away, like they do on The Walking Dead or, pretty much any zombie movie. It'll probably be a little bit more like just cold, pale flesh, kind of like goth chicks. And I like goth chicks. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think I would. Well, I mean,
you'd have sex with anything.
Well, not anything. But I mean, hey, you never know. That could be a new porn category, essentially.
Is it new? I mean, necrophilia, it's basically the same thing, right?
Yeah, and I'm sure if you looked, there's probably like some kind of role-playing sort of thing like that already in existence, I would imagine. I could see that being a thing. And yeah, well, what about any other like kind of uh, cryptid or something like that? Like what about a like a yeti, a hot yeti?
Yeah. No, couldn't do a hot vampire chick. Had to go right for a yeti.
Well, yeah, why not? Hmm.
A she yeti. Let's see. Well, that's a little. I kind of like no hair, and that's quite the opposite. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know about the yeti. Yeah. What about you though?
Uh, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it depends.
You okay with her being a lot taller than you? Because
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm
gonna
kind
be
of
like a
more.
good meter, probably.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm more into shorter girls than taller girls. But I mean, who knows? I guess since I haven't tried it, I don't know. It's possible. I guess.
Well,
Might.
maybe there's sexual dimorphism within the yeti species, and maybe the females are shorts.
That could
We've only
be.
ever seen males out hunting or gathering or whatever it is they do.
Yeah, exactly. That might be I don't know, who knows? There could be something exciting in there. Maybe like Sasquatch and Yeti chicks are like really wild. You never know.
Is there something like slightly ironic about me talking about sexual dimorphism while I'm dressed like this?
Yeah, there is. Oh man. Yeah,
Well,
I'm curious what other people like. Yeah, any kind of weird creature,
well,
cryptid.
I just had a thought. Bride of
Mhm.
Frankenstein, right?
Yeah,
Isn't that technically a zombie?
I guess so.
Like
Yeah,
Frankenstein is back from the dead and he's all pieced together and gross and stuff. Like I I think he's a zombie, right?
I would say kinda, but maybe not like a biologically activated zombie, but more like an artificially activated one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
AZ.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, and yeah, the Bride of Frankenstein is hot. Like,
Frankenstein GPT.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Oh man, I would, maybe,
What,
maybe.
like a female wolf man? Or, well,
Oh yeah,
wolf woman?
yeah,
Where wolf woman?
sure, yeah.
Like,
Why not?
oh, I would totally be playing typo negatives Wolf Moon. Like,
Oh God, yeah. That's
yep. Yep.
uh-huh. Oh
That's
man.
kind of my go-to track anyway. Like,
Hmm.
yeah.
Oh yeah, they're a great band for stuff like getting
Yeah.
up to shenanigans.
The October Rust album. I mean, like it's Halloween. We got to talk about how awesome that is. So,
Oh
like,
yeah.
if you don't know typo negative, go listen to October Rust, like the whole thing.
Yeah. Oh,
Start to
it's
finish.
all good. Every track is awesome.
Yeah,
Very, very good.
you don't know what
That's
you're missing.
yep. Oh, well, that's time. So I guess that works out. Okay. So I guess we're
Yeah,
on to your category there, which
I
is
think my wing is caught on the ceiling.
no, no.
Yeah. Take these broken wings.
Oh man.
Well, let's see. We're on to conspiracy theories.
Conspiracies.
Are
Okay.
you ready with the timer?
Timer is ready.
Do aliens walk among us?
Probably. Um, I mean,
The implication here is they're disguised as humans.
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people who think that that is a thing. I mean, there's some fairly prominent people who say, "Oh yeah, there's like alien earthling hybrid people that are just kind of hanging out observing or whatever or out manipulating things doing what they do and I think it's possible. Certainly, well, if we look at like Star Trek the Next Generation, right, there were
Mhm.
multiple episodes where they were kind of disguised as the people they were observing
Right.
walking amongst them. um, And that's pretty much the best way to gain an understanding. It's also a great way to manipulate things. um,
Yeah.
it depends on
Well,
what you believe the intentions are of these beings.
here's the other thing is there's people give crap to Star Trek for being just like humans with like ridges on their nose or forehead, and that's like about it. But if you think about like the structure of our body and how it is kind of well tuned to its environment, and the environment is a product of certain conditions with, like respect to being able to live, right?
Yeah.
So these earth-like planets that we look for and we look for life on and stuff like that, we've got this assumption that they've got to be like weird looking, but they don't necessarily. Like they could actually probably pass as human
Mm-hmm.
with a little bit of makeup or something, like
Sure, they might have slightly different features or something, but I mean, I think you're right that the environment would, like evolution would create human-like beings. And I mean, if you look at like the rest of nature, a lot of the larger animals tend to be relatively similar, like
mm-hmm.
four-legged creatures. That there's slight variations, but I mean, is a cow really that different than a horse, or a
Yeah.
giraffe?
Right.
Like they're completely different animals, but yet they're very similar. And like all the primates and stuff, we're all really similar. It just so happens that we humans stand up on two
Mm-hmm.
legs, but it I don't think that would be altogether unexpected.
See, like I kind of gave Star Trek crap for overlooking certain things, like the importance of opposable thumbs in that one episode that was actually like pretty creepy and good for Halloween, where they would get abducted in their sleep.
Oh man, that's a creepy episode.
And the aliens, Mick Jagger was one of them, just in case anyone wants a little tidbit of interesting knowledge. Um, they had these like lobster claw like hands, and they made all this sophisticated technology that's all like with little teeny tiny knobs, and it's like how'd they do that with these like pincers? Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like you need dexterity for stuff like that. Like,
Oh yeah, they were all like their hands were all floppity and stuff, and they could barely
yeah.
hold on. Like when they took the stuff from Riker, like they could barely hold on to it. And
Mm-hmm.
like, but yeah, you're right. They have all this sophisticated technology. Like there's no way. I mean, I guess
Yeah.
unless they use robots or something, but then where did those come from?
Right. Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, that's not to say that like an octopus couldn't construct something maybe with like you get by with what you have. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe we just need to think outside the box on like what technology looks like. And
Well, yeah, and I guess if you could construct tools, then tools beget more tools,
right.
and so you could theoretically, even if you were kind of inept physically, you could still potentially, if you're clever enough, um, be able to make tools that make other tools and things like that. And you could, yeah, an octopus could create a spacecraft, I think, in that regard.
you know Speaking of octopi or octopuses, pussies, octopussies, um part of my costume fell off. Wardrobe
Oh
malfunction.
well, that's time.
Ah,
uh well.
well. uh
Oh man.
yes, so I think
Yes,
we're on to yours now.
on to me, and that's current events. Okay, so there will be hundreds of thousands of Russian and Ukrainian ghosts haunting the frontline areas.
Oh,
Like it'll be a very condensed. I mean, if you believe in ghosts, that stretch will just have hundreds of thousands of ghosts. Like
that's
it'll
a
be
good point.
uber haunted.
That is a good point. Like these major skirmishes in history, often are followed by ghost stories of, well, like the Winchester gal,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Um, was supposedly haunted by World War I ghosts, I think,
It
or
might
was
have
it
been
even
Civil
before
War.
that? Civil War, Civil
Civil
War
War.
ghosts,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, and yeah, like there's, I guess, probably all throughout history, kind of
Mhm.
stuff like that. And you know what? That kind of lends a little bit of credence to the idea of a ghost because if everybody became a ghost, you'd think there would just be like everyone would just know there's ghosts. Like they would just be everything would be sopping with ectoplasm and
Yep.
you know there would just be ghosts everywhere. Like there'd be a ghost hosting the show or something,
Exactly.
maybe there is.
You never know. Woo. Yeah. Well, a lot of people believe that ghosts are like residual energy from some kind of typically traumatic event.
Mhm.
The ghosts don't just come out of just anybody who dies. It's usually like connected with some kind of emotional state. And I
Yeah,
mean, what more dramatic state of mind could there be than combat? You know,
right.
so like I think there's a lot of people see a lot of weird spiritual things in battlefield areas, like historic
Do
places
you
like
think
that.
do you think most of the ghosts will be Russian or Ukrainian?
It's hard to say at this point, but I mean there's certainly a lot of Russians who have met their end over
Yeah, yeah.
there.
But I
um
mean, like, who do you think has the most gruesome end?
hmm
That's kind of a hard question,
it
right? Because
is, well, like,
because the Russian soldiers kind of don't want to be there, but if they turn back, they get shot by their buddies.
mhm.
So it's like they have to like do shit they really don't want to do and
There's probably
probably
a
die
great
anyway. Like,
yeah, I would imagine there's a great sense of fear and despair, which certainly, whereas like the Ukrainians, they're fighting for their home, right?
yeah,
There's a kind of there's a whole different motivation there.
yeah,
The Russians, yeah, I would imagine they'd be very sad ghosts.
yeah. I think like 99.999% of humans don't want war. It's
Mhm.
just the leaders want war.
Yep.
So like the people on the offense probably all feel really shitty.
Yeah,
And we're, most of the Civil War ghosts like Confederate.
I
Like
think
isn't it
so.
usually the losing side or whatever,
I think so. Yeah.
or the asshole side or what?
Yeah,
There are a bunch of
exactly.
Nazi ghosts.
I don't know. I mean,
Uh,
you're in the area to find out.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? Like ghosts aren't really a thing in Germany. Like people just kind of generally don't even consider it.
Hmm.
Like,
That's interesting.
it is interesting. Like all the cultural differences, minute as they are very, very intriguing.
Huh. Yeah.
But
Wow.
yeah, like the idea of ghosts not really being a thing, it's even with all these old castles and of course the Nazi history and stuff like that, all the tragedy that comes with those types of things. Um, you would think there would be more ghost folklore here.
Yeah, that is weird. Like, because I mean,
And it's a pocket of skepticism too, right? Like
yeah, yeah. Well, maybe.
England has tons of ghosts, like
Mhm.
that's like an hour flight from here,
Yeah.
and Transylvania's over in Romania, actually Germany has Castle Frankenstein.
Mhm.
We do have that going for us, but that's not really a ghost. So,
No.
as we discussed a few minutes ago, more of a zombie.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, exactly.
yeah, we
Man,
totally believe in zombies here in Germany, just not ghosts.
not ghosts, huh? That's strange. Huh. Weird. I like.
but
I wonder why.
but yeah, that aside, I hope there's not so many ghosts left.
Oh, that's time.
Yeah, that war needs to end.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. That's the whole thing is bullshit. Well, and
Mhm.
now like we've got other conflicts going on too. Like Armenia and stuff. Like, ugh, Jesus. But anyway, let's go on to you, I guess.
It is me.
Yes, and your
It is
category,
me, and it is the economy.
the economy, the economy. You.
So, the Econo line, Ford's new van with more room and air.
Air. uh,
Um, okay, the economy. Does low budget equal better horror films?
yes.
Aha.
I completely, absolutely like the lower the budget, the better. I mean, to a point, obviously, but
Right.
I mean, there are some films that have been made on a shoestring budget that are fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, and you can look at like the movie The Thing, right? Like the 80s one was very scary and awesome. And then they redid The Thing with a huge budget and all kinds of technology, and it wasn't really that great.
Yeah.
Not quite as good. And there's something about horror films being kind of campy, and also the I think when it's a small budget, there's a fewer staff involved too. It's a more personal project,
Mhm.
and that makes it, I think, better in my opinion.
Well, and you also have to rely more on having a good story,
Yes.
better ambience, better
Hmm.
acting.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, not to say that all low budget horror films have great acting. That's
No.
certainly not true, but like it's probably one of those things where if you at least have one element that's good, it's going to be good enough for horror
Mhm.
fans. Because I mean, honestly, like horror movies aren't out there like winning all these prizes for great cinematography and directing and acting and all this stuff, but
No.
people love them anyway, and
Yeah, exactly. I think you're right. It's like you kind of you can't rely on technology and a bunch of expensive special effects and things like that. You have to rely on clever storytelling and
mm-hmm.
framing the shot and ambience, like you said. I think that's yeah, like a low budget kind of forces that, and I think it ends up making for a better film.
Yeah. I mean, love it or hate it, the Blair Witch Project
Yep.
was kind of a pinnacle of low budget becoming like smash hit.
Yeah,
As
that had.
far as like horror movies go, that was probably one of the biggest hits there was, right?
Oh yeah, and it was a really terrifying movie. Like it,
Mm-hmm.
it was certainly the ambience of that. Yeah, it was great, and it kind of kicked off the whole found footage thing.
Yep. Yeah,
Um,
like that's the last time I can think of where a horror film completely shifted the dynamic of subsequent horror films,
mhm.
kind of to an annoying level, because that was like the worst part of watching Blair Witch is just like the car sick feeling, like
Yeah, exactly.
like the experience of watching it is not so great. Yeah.
No, but that adds to it. I think like that
Yeah.
the it's unsettling.
And that's kind of brilliant, whether they meant that or not.
Mhm.
Um, like you walk out of there feeling not just scared or shaken, but like sick.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and it was also brilliant in that like the people, the actors essentially didn't even know what was going on. Like they
Oh,
were
really?
basically handed cameras and told to film things, and then secretly the rest of the crew were like setting these things up around them,
Oh,
and so the reactions were actually genuine.
I didn't know
Like,
that.
yeah, they were not, a lot of that was not acting. They were actually afraid of what was
Huh.
going on.
Oh man, I is there like a documentary on that? Because I kind of wonder if you remember that one. I think it was a chick that was like holding the camera like right here and crying and like snot was dripping out and everything.
Uh-huh.
Like Like, was she like seriously traumatized by that?
I'm,
You know,
I'm
like
actually.
the Shelley whatever from The Shining,
Mhm.
actually kind of like had a mental breakdown from like filming
Yeah.
because it was like getting a little too real for her and stuff. Like,
Hmm.
I wonder if that happened with them because like there's some ethical questions I have about that. You know, like
Yeah, I but that probably was a little step too far, probably.
yeah,
Um, but again, it was a really unsettling film. Um, whoop, that's time.
mm,
Good topic though. Like that's a good one, man.
yeah.
I like that. Okay, so on to me, and I have philosophy. So let's see. Okay, is grave digging a bad thing?
Hmm. Well, are you asking an archaeologist?
Well, that's what I was getting at is like, we have no issues pulling mummies and treasures out of tombs, right?
Yeah.
That's perfectly okay. But oh, if someone digs up your grandma, like, oh, you're going to be pissed off.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder. I don't know if this is true or not. This is all conjecture, but I'm imagining stuff like that in Egypt kind of started with accidentally stumbling on this stuff, not really knowing culturally what it was right away because it obviously was a lot different than the way the rest of the world does things in modern times, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially the grandiose nature of that. Like that's not something that everybody gets, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I can kind of forgive that at first, and after that, like making all these expeditions out of it and stuff like I don't know. I mean, yeah, there's historical value to be found there.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but like how many
Respect.
bodies do you need to dig up for that? Like
Yeah, I think it's important to respect people. Although, again, like, I mean,
it was so long ago though. Like
well,
so,
exactly. And I personally, to me, it's like the body is just a vessel. It's not
yeah.
sacred per se. Um, eh, Other
Like
people may feel differently. And maybe it comes down to respecting other people's.
yeah, I mean,
But how do you know when so much time has passed? And maybe
right.
that's the thing. Maybe it's a time thing. Like so many generations have passed, and now nobody even there's no connection whatsoever to that person.
Yeah. I mean, if we went on putting bodies in the ground and maintaining them as like sacred, can't be touched, can't be moved or disturbed or whatever for all of time, eventually we just run out of space.
Yeah,
So
you're
like
right.
the whole idea of like building on graveyards or moving graves or digging them up or whatever, like at some point we're gonna have to do something different.
Yeah.
Like it's one. I mean, it's nice that we're going forward now, like with different ideas, like become a tree and
Hmm.
you know donate your body to science, cremation. Like all these other things other than just getting stuck in the ground.
Yeah,
Um,
which I mean, if you consider that there's like billions of people currently, you know,
yeah.
and then you want to try to create like a nice, good plot for each of them.
Hmm.
Well, that requires a huge amount of real estate. And of course, people don't want to be buried in the middle of the desert. They want to be buried in like their hometown or something. So, like, okay, well, yeah, there is kind of going to be a point where we're not going to have space for them anymore. Um,
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, the reverence that we give to dead bodies is a little strange. I
it is.
I get it, but like it would be better, I think, to I don't know, have kind of like an artifact or something that you kind of um just designate as sort of a talisman that
Yeah, some kind of
represents your
marker or
lost
something.
loved one, sort of thing. And
Yeah.
you could have graveyards where you like place that thing there in
Hmm.
some
A
secure
piece of
fashion.
the person, maybe like some ashes or a bone or something like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Actually, here's a good question. How long before no one will care about your gravesite?
Oh, God. Pretty quick, I
It's
think.
kind of, yeah, like by the time you're getting into like, you know, four generations out, I don't know where my great grandpa's gravesite is.
Right. So here in Germany, graveyards are beautiful.
Hmm.
Every single plot has like a full on garden in it
Hmm.
that traditionally the family goes there like weekly, probably,
Huh.
to maintain it. Take the
Wow.
weeds out, water it, trim things, blah, blah, blah. There's bushes, flowers, all kinds of stuff. Totally beautiful.
Oh, that's time.
But
That's
some of
interesting.
them are totally overgrown.
Uh-huh.
So people do get forgotten.
Yes. And eventually all of us will be forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of wild.
That is an interesting cultural difference too. Like
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
America's got some ugly ass cemeteries.
Okay, so on to you. Your
Okay. All right.
this one,
Politics.
politics. I'm curious how you're going to spin this in a Halloween. Well, I have an idea of what I would do, but um, okay, go for it.
Well, to go back to zombies, in the event of a zombie apocalypse, who would win, the zombies or FEMA camps?
Zombies for sure. Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, you've seen
You
some
don't
of
think
those.
we'd be safe behind some
Oh,
razor wire and
and chain link fence and stuff like that. Oh hell no, they'll just pile up and crawl right over, push through. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. It makes you wonder, like, things like FEMA camps. Um, like, what are they really for? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. Oh, well,
Did they
yeah,
really just pop up overnight? Like,
yeah, when you look into it, it's a little sus, as the kids
mm,
say.
mhm, mhm.
There's a lot of weird things going on there. Like, what are they expecting to happen here?
But I mean, in a realistic sense, let's look at what they are, right? Like they are meant for long term stay. So let's assume you've got food and water and shelter from the cold and pretty much all the basics you need to like just hunker down and stay there.
Hmm.
Like, like a zombie apocalypse would probably be the most legit reason to run to a FEMA camp if you don't have some other means of preparation on your own. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
and
Well,
actually there's strength in numbers, so it's probably actually smarter
that's
than
true. Although it
being in
is
your
a
own basement.
juicy target for zombies, though. So at the same time, but you're right. Yeah, I mean, well, and I think uh, like the surface purpose is for emergency, like a disaster kind of thing, where there's a flood or something, who knows, and people are displaced and they need somewhere to go. Um, and so, yeah, but yeah, in a zombie apocalypse, assuming you've got, I guess, machetes and shotguns on hand for everybody, then sure, it would be a very good place to be. Uh,
Yeah.
but short of that, if they don't have like an entire uh, shipping container full of those things,
Right.
that
What
might be a problem.
do what, what all do they have in FEMA camps, I wonder?
I
Like
Yeah,
would they have uh munitions to disseminate in the event of such a catastrophe where like truly all hell breaks loose?
I doubt it. It almost, in fact, there's some camps where you know how the you've got your chain link fence and then the angled thing for the
Yeah.
razor tape, right? Some of the pictures I've seen, it's not angled out, it's angled in.
Oh God.
So it's like designed to keep you in there, not to keep something out, which is a little distressing of a thought.
Yeah.
But I guess you could,
Hmm.
if the zombies were coming, you could turn those around, and like that might slow them down a bit. But I don't think that they are prepared for something like that. And maybe they should be, even if it's a natural disaster, because there's all kinds of bad things. People go a little haywire when disasters happen, and you can
Looting.
have
Yeah.
like, yeah, roving gangs, and obviously like a FEMA camp would be a target. Like, oh, there's a bunch of people there with a bunch of stuff who are
Hmm.
defenseless. Like, we have all the weapons. We can just go in there and take everything that just clean out those food supplies, get all the water and everything. Like, and there'd be like, sure, maybe they have a few guards or something, but the guards aren't going to hold off a horde of well armed, well trained people that are, very motivated to get in there and get that stuff.
Yeah. I suppose the government's rationale would be, well, in that case, we would just send our troops to protect you.
Hmm.
Um, but
Assuming those troops aren't like preoccupied with some other conflict that might be happening.
or zombies themselves.
Zombies, yeah. Oh yeah. Oh man. Oh god. If the whole like a military just got turned into zombies, and they're driving around in tanks and MRAPs and stuff like that, carrying like machine guns and stuff. Dude,
I
I
mean,
don't think I've ever seen a zombie movie that's like that. Imagine like an entire military base is turned, and they're still coherent enough to be able to utilize the weapons. So not now. Oh man. Well, that's time. But there's the next movie idea.
yeah,
Zombie army or something like that. uh,
Zarmy.
oh man. So then let's see. I guess we're on to my topic, which will be category is going to be public health and safety. So, um, for this one, is there a possibility of a scenario happening like it did in I Am Legend?
Hmm.
I believe it was like a cancer cure that unexpectedly had a side effect of turning people into essentially zombies.
Yeah. I Am Legend. That's Will Smith. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that was like a remake of a remake.
It was from a book. So there was the Omega Man from the 60s, which is also a really good movie.
Yeah.
But it wasn't quite true to the book. I think I Am Legend is much closer.
Well, but that was from The Last Man on Earth, I think.
I
Uh, Vincent Price,
maybe there's probably some other things based
which was like vampires instead of zombies.
on.
So like depending on which version you go off, and I don't know about the book, but um, like either way, like you're talking about like a bunch of people turning into some kind of monster.
Mm-hmm.
And I
That we'll see,
kind
and
of
that's what
kind of
people
plausible
were
maybe.
thinking about, the like the mRNA vaccine. Like, whoa, wait a second. What if it starts mutating me somehow? Like, and I don't know that that's necessarily quite possible, but
It's not
maybe
possible, but
maybe another some other kind of cure for something could have a side effect that nobody foresaw, right? Like we've tested people, oh yep, it cures cancer, and then like years later the mutations start happening. Like, do you think that's
um
actually possible to?
it would take a parasite or a fungus or something that could affect like brain function
Mm-hmm.
um mm, without like killing it, but
Mm-hmm.
just sort of redirecting it, modifying it, like zombie ants. People can Google that. I believe that's a fungus.
Yeah. A
Or
fungus would be, and it could theoretically be something that could be used to cure a disease.
yeah,
Like, well, it already, things,
well, like penicillin came from a
penicillin.
fungus.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So it's like, well, what if we figure out that like this one particular fungus, when we do these things to it, causes disease to go away, but then like in rats and stuff it works, but in humans it does something more
you know,
eventually.
we think we're the top of the food chain, but it's really fungus. Like
Yeah.
fungus will fuck you up.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that
Um,
stuff is pretty.
the entire state of Oregon is like basically sitting on one mushroom,
Yeah,
one whole mushroom.
isn't it like millions of years old too,
Yeah.
or something? Like,
Like,
that's
what
so
if that
cool.
mushroom gained sentience and decided to eat Oregon? Just like, nom, nom,
Oh
nom.
yeah, emerge from the ground and the tendrils start wrapping around
Hipsters.
people.
Yeah.
Man, that could be
Yeah.
where the zombie apocalypse comes from. You never know.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like the ability to, so, fungus obviously doesn't have motility, it doesn't move around. So if it wants to propagate its species, it has to figure out other ways of spreading its seed around.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets pretty crafty with that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like flowers and stuff, they can rely on the wind or other insects and stuff like that. But, fungus gets into some strange avenues.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and their spores, they get around
Oh,
plenty fine,
yes.
like, so yeah, if you see mold on your food, like, don't try to like eat around it, just throw that shit away, like, don't
Oh,
fuck.
because yeah, there's like invisible
Yeah,
like by the time you see it, it's probably all over the place. Like
yeah.
if you see a little green spot on a piece of bread, that whole loaf is probably
Mm-hmm.
full of fungus.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a crazy thing too. Like take a loaf of bread and like seal it up tight in a tightly sealed container and it will still mold.
Oh
Like
yeah.
somehow
And
that stuff gets in there. I mean, it's probably already there. The spores are just waiting for the right opportunity.
I mean, bread is kind of born out of spores, so
That's true. Yeah. Okay. That's
yeast.
time.
Yeah,
Yeast. Exactly. Oh, man. Yeah.
yeah, that's, huh,
That's that's an interesting one. Man.
we got all into mushrooms there.
Mm-hmm. Oh man. I yeah, for public health and safety, I could talk about mushrooms as being like a therapeutic thing, but that's not
Oh, that
spooky.
would be a cool topic, actually.
Yeah, yeah, we'll have to go into that.
Huh.
There's even like quite a few politicians that are kind of pushing for that. I can't remember who it was, but there's like even like this Republican representative, I guess, that's like kind of turned and is like, hey, we should probably why are these things illegal? They're actually
Hmm.
very promising, and
Wow.
maybe we should rethink the ban. um,
Hmm.
well, we can get into that later.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll go on to you then.
Aha. Yes. Religion.
Religion. Okay.
All right. Exorcism. Is it bogus or real?
Exorcism. Ooh. Well, I guess it depends on whether you believe that humans can be possessed. I don't
Hmm.
necessarily know that. I kind of feel like the exorcism process, it's basically like a psychiatric kind of thing. Like somebody
Yeah.
has
Oh yeah.
an issue and they're freaking out and people come in and they do these little rituals and maybe calm people down or whatever. Um
Right.
I
And
don't I don't know. I mean, it is kind of like the zombie thing. Like, can people be possessed?
I mean, no. And you're spot on. Like this is a psychological effect. People just kind of get hysterical. Their hyper religious family says, "Oh no, the devil is inside our child," or whatever, and they call the
Mm-hmm.
priest. And the priest starts spewing all this religious mumbo jumbo. And if you're in the heights of hallucination or mania, anything in your immediate surroundings is going to influence that. So if somebody says the devil is in you, you're going to basically start experiencing that in your hallucination,
Mm-hmm.
and
And oh
and
yeah,
you're
and
going
if,
to play off of it, like
well, and if you're a deeply religious person who's experiencing this, you may find you might be manipulated essentially by or affected by a, a priest or a group of people coming in and like laying hands on you and saying stuff out of the Bible and crosses and holy water and whatnot, and maybe it might you'll be inclined to stop feeling that way, like to feel
yeah,
better essentially, like. And maybe there's good in that, I suppose, in that if it calms you down and makes you feel better, fine. But I think it's important to be real about things, like understand what's actually going on,
yeah,
because it's kind of like a placebo effect, I think, that sort of
yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, like you said, like the calm nature might be therapeutic, but sometimes it's not so calm. And
thing.
I wonder if those are the situations where it doesn't quite go so well.
Yeah.
Like you come in like yelling with a Bible in one hand and like throwing holy water on them and saying the power of kitchen sink compels you, like it's not really like a pleasant scenario for anybody.
No, but
Yeah.
maybe it might, if yeah, you're right. I don't know. It is interesting. Hmm.
And why would all this only be taking place in kind of like in the Catholic realm, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Well, there's other
no,
cultures that believe in possession, quite a few, in fact, and they have their own rituals for how to deal with that. But again,
yeah,
it
I guess
ties
that's true.
into all those rituals are connected to the cultural beliefs.
Right.
So, like, if you took somebody from Africa who was like some kind of guru or whatever and brought them to the US and they came and tried to exercise a Catholic person, right? Would it be effective? I
Right.
doubt it. Um,
Well, I mean, we say bless you when people sneeze because we used to think that was the devil.
mm-hmm.
Like there does come a point where, society generally gets enough scientific knowledge integrated into the culture that they just kind of stop believing this nonsense. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
why we haven't really reached that with exorcism yet, because it's the same thing going on, right? Like it was
Right.
just a phenomenon that couldn't be explained, so it's God,
Oh yeah.
or
Well, I
or
mean,
the devil,
it
depending on if it's a good or bad thing, right?
yeah, exactly. Well, I think yeah, it's just we when that was very very prominent, we didn't really understand the human mind and how
Yeah,
things operate. So it was like, yeah, if there was aberrant behavior, they must be possessed by something because that's not the person that I know. It must be some other person, and it's probably a spiritual one.
yeah.
Probably this one that we are all afraid of. It's the jinn or something taking over
Yeah.
this person.
I mean, the dissociative identity disorder where people have multiple
So,
personalities, like
oh,
that
that's a good
that could
one.
be that could be the culprit there, but
Yeah, yeah.
I guess
Well,
that's time.
give us your thoughts on that down there in the comments section. Okay, so the final
The power of the
category.
comment section compels you.
Oh man, the more you hit that like button, it just adds crosses to, like keep away the demons. Yep.
Well, now there's people like that already liked it that just unliked our video.
Unlike, yeah.
Damn it.
Ah, well, can't win them all. So, okay, now this is the one that we both are aware of, and that this one's science.
Science.
Science. So why don't you take it away, Casey?
Spooky science.
Hmm.
Well, what do you think the scientific plausibility is behind vampires?
Oh, I mean, well, like the classic movie vampires, probably not. Like being bitten, I mean, this is almost kind of like zombies. Like it's a contagious thing,
Mhm.
that you're bitten, and of course, in some versions of the vampire story, it's like you can be bitten but not turned, or other times you're always turned, or sometimes you're killed, and you just don't become a vampire. It's kind of all over the place.
Yeah. Well, so I don't know if you've heard of this before, but there is um, certain ideas that the concept of vampirism, if that's a word, um,
Mhm.
it kind of came from iron deficiency
Huh.
because blood contains hemoglobin. The heme group is made up of iron,
Hmm.
and that's why you taste metal when you have blood in your mouth, you know.
Yeah.
And people, who have iron deficiencies could be inclined to get cravings for the only thing they know that tastes like metal,
Hmm.
being blood.
Hmm.
Um,
Plus,
so
you might
there is
also,
kind of a school of thought that vampires actually are a thing, like people drinking other people's blood.
and not only that, but you might also, your skin could be pale,
Oh yeah,
like vampires
definitely.
typically look.
And you would probably sleep a lot. So
Hmm.
people would be like, "Oh, you sleep in the day, you must be awake at night," even though
Yeah.
you're probably still sleeping at night.
Well, and if if you're somehow end up drinking blood and then it makes you feel better, right? Then you're like, well, this is what I need. And then you'll be drinking blood all the time.
And that's the question I have. Like, does that actually work? And when I think about it, probably yeah. Like in a
Yeah.
pinch, you know,
Yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
rather take like a Centrum Silver, but
Hmm. Well, but back in the day, that wasn't a thing,
right,
you know?
yeah.
So,
So
yeah.
yeah, like it's interesting when you think about like, is there a scientific basis for all these monster myths?
I, there could be. I mean, I think in a lot of the really prevalent things, there's a little bit of truth in
Mm-hmm.
there. There's some things are, Loch Ness monster is probably just something that someone saw once. I don't think it's really a thing. But then, like Bigfoot, it's like, okay, well, there's enough evidence there to say that there's something. Same thing with UFOs or aliens or something. It's like, there is not no evidence there. There's some
Mm.
pretty solid stuff. And with ghosts, even like, me, I'm really into watching ghost videos, like caught on camera stuff. And most of them could be explained, um, Occam's razor kind of thing. But there's a percentage of them that it's like, well, I there's no way to explain that one. Like that's not a faked video. Um, and so it's like there's typically like some kind of truth in there. And
Mhm.
yeah, maybe there could be an actual vampire of sorts, not
Right.
one that lives forever.
Like,
But
yeah, I mean, if you start extrapolating possibilities for how something could be explained by just being a monster, I think a lot of, like, I don't know, I have trouble with werewolves, but um, like the mummy situation, it could be that people just thought you were dead and you weren't, and they start mummifying you, and then you're like, hey,
well, there's
stop.
actually quite a few stories of people who were like buried and they came to in a coffin. And like, yeah, they're in fact, back in the day, I think they used to have like little cords that went down to your casket, and you could pull and it would ring a bell.
Right.
Because maybe that had more to do with like the inability to tell if someone was actually dead or just in a coma or something like that. But there's a lot of stories like that of people presumed dead and they just came back to life. Like, it's kind of wild. That's time. So that concludes our spooky version of the lightning round.
Arr. Now I'm a demon bondage pirate.
Why not? So am I, but you just can't tell by my attire. I'm in costume. Like, this is my costume. Oh man.
Well, it's probably time to cue up a spooky song and get out of these black pasties.
Hey, whoa, you just demonetized.